All right, guys. So I'm back again. Sorry about that. So I just hopped into StreamYard here so that I could actually share my screen with you guys. So before I do that, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on right now. So if you guys have been following us for any length of time, I know that this wasn't a scheduled live. Not right now. Sorry, my dad just come in and try to get the trash. That's what happens when you have your office at home. So I'm going live right now to give an update that's major with one of the clients that we work with named Centivax. So for anybody that's been following us for a long period of time, you know that for being a small startup out of Canton, we were able to start working really closely with an organization from the Netflix documentary series Pandemic called Centivax, also known as Distributed Bio. Distributed Bio is really the overarching company, and Centivax was kind of a spin-off of that company because some of the contract research that was being done got so big underneath of that that it was able to spin off into its own company. But today, we are putting out a press release. They just put out this press release at like 7 p.m. And they actually 3 independent labs were able to independently confirm the potency of their antibodies. So I'm going to go ahead and post that link in the comments here so that you guys can go check that out. But I figured this article together and I by no means am I a virologist, immunologist, I'm not somebody that is really involved in the science piece of this. However, I have been lucky enough to have been a part of the journey to a very small scale since they started really this research when I first interviewed Jake and Sarah back in the beginning of March and even before that. So I see that the live numbers are going down a little bit. I'm assuming people are going to read the article. So I figured let's just start here. So today, 3 independent labs confirmed that multiple of the Centivax antibodies are therapeutic candidates and potent neutralizers of the pandemic coronavirus. So viral neutralization demonstrates that the antibodies are able to completely block the novel coronavirus from infecting human cells. This is huge, right? So the way that vaccines work is you give a vaccine and then antibodies are produced inside of the body to protect you against whatever virus or whatever we're trying to inoculate you against, right? They're basically skipping the step of having to have the vaccine and have the body produce antibodies to protect itself and just going directly to antibody therapy, which is going to be very rapidly available and something that you can use to treat the virus without the vaccine having to go through the steps of producing the antibodies inside of the body. Now, like I said, it's a very low level understanding. I don't have crazy degrees. I'm just a RN. So we'll just continue here. Independent validation is a cornerstone of good science, which is why I really love working with them and talking to them, is because Jake Glanville, their CEO, is so focused on basically saying we do the best work and we know we do the best work. So we're going to give it to other people to check so that they can know that we do good work as well, which is something that's not just present in science, but I think across a lot of business, is that if you're willing to give up what you do and like the work and have other people test it, that's when you know that it's really, really good. If other people come back and say, yeah, this is really good stuff. And it wasn't just one independent lab they sent it to 3. And it's not like they were small, like independent labs, right? We've got the University of Texas. We've got the Stanford University, their division for biochem. And then we also have USAMRID, which is the U.S. Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Disease. So these aren't small facilities, guys. These aren't people that are not reputable at all. We've got Stanford, USAMRID, and the University of Texas, right? So they sent it out, and we sent out our antibodies to 3 world-class laboratories. I'm quoting Jake in the article here, to ensure that independent groups using different people, samples, equipment, and experimental designs would all come to the same robust conclusion that we had generated highly potent neutralizing antibodies that could be used to treat the novel coronavirus. And that's exactly what happened, right? you go to the University of Texas quote inside of this article here, and it says that their lab tested a panel of antibodies against a real virus in biocontainment, and they were pleased to see that it was very good at neutralizing the virus for some of the antibodies. Stanford said that they were pleased to see that Centivax antibodies prevent infection by viruses that were pseudotyped with SARS-CoV-2. I'm not going to dive into that. If you want to do independent research on what pseudotyping viruses is, by all means. I'm not going to explore that for the purposes of this live stream. The scientists at US AMRID said that they're still in the early stages of evaluating the antibodies, but they look forward to further evaluation because the antibodies, the subset of antibodies that they were testing, have very potent neutralizing activity against the live virus itself. So the crazy thing is, honestly, and this is what's been so cool to be a part of, watching all of this and trying to come up with ways for them to put out their messages. They are extremely innovative at Centivax. Okay, they were able to successfully engineer these therapeutic antibodies in less than 9 weeks because of the technology that they use on site. So they use technology called Tumbler, Superhuman 2.0. And if you want to look at that, you can actually just go to Centivax.com or distributedbio.com, and you'll be able to do more research into that. But they were extremely well established antibodies that were present from SARS, which is a different type of coronavirus, that they took the SARS antibody, plugged it into their systems, and decided that they were going to test all of these different variations of that antibody against SARS-CoV-2, which is our novel coronavirus. The beautiful thing is that fighting coronavirus isn't where this technology stops. So outside of the high affinity and potent neutralization, these antibodies, and this is the words of Glanville here, it says these antibodies represent the cutting edge of modern antibody engineering. They're optimized for enhanced potency, thermostability, reduced immunogenicity, extended half-life. They have all of these additional features. For those of you that are just tuning in, we're going over an article that was just released by Centivax, which is a biotechnology research, contract research company out of California, featured on Netflix's Pandemic. If you've watched that, you'll recognize Jake Glanville and Sarah Ives. We're going over the article that they just put out about 3 independent labs, University of Texas, US AMRID, and Stanford, independently verifying how potent their antibodies are. So they were able to see that the therapeutic property engineering of these antibodies, it's not just for coronavirus that their technology is applicable, right? So they're able to take the antibodies and engineer them in a way that outside of the novel coronavirus pandemic, these antibodies that they produce are going to be more potent, more stable, and they're going to have a longer half-life than the current antibodies that we have. So it's super, super interesting to read, right? Dr. Salsin Youssef is their chief science officer and is an amazingly intellectual person. She says in this article here that my teams have confirmed that the molecules have superior stability, expression, and are specific to the viral target without any binding to human cells, which is super important. And like I said throughout this entire live stream, if you want to do your own independent research into what a lot of this stuff means, feel free. Something that you can do that's really simple is actually just go and listen to Salsin's interview. I'm going to pull that up real quick and post it so that you can see it. But we've actually interviewed a lot of the Centivax staff on our podcast, the Apex podcast. So I will go ahead and put that link to Salsin's interview right here in the comments so you can go check that out, okay? So there's the link. It just posted, and that's to Salsin's interview there. If you go in and listen to that, you can learn a lot about the actual immunoengineering and some of that specific stuff. Actually, but I would recommend listening to all of them because Sharad Darakia, he has a great one. Aishani Athresh, she has a great one too. Definitely listen to all of them if you get the chance. So going forward, this is where we'll just kind of wrap this up here. Going forward, they're going to be trying to produce the best possible antibodies for safety assessment with Charles River Laboratories. They're extremely encouraged by the neutralizing effects that have been seen thus far. And this is a quote from their executive vice president. What is that? Birgit Gershik? I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. But as a strategic partner of Distributed Bio, we're proud to support this innovative program and are excited by the potential that it holds. So this is likely going to be probably one of the fastest antibodies that has ever really hit the market. And Dr. Salsan Youssef actually says this will likely be the fastest I've ever taken a therapeutic antibody into the clinic. But the beautiful thing about this team, and this is something that if you guys can share this video, share this article, and push it out to whoever you can, the reason why I put so much stock in this is because they're independent, right? They have been so focused on providing a therapy to people ASAP, not because of profit, not because of anything else. Glanville, his entire team, they're so focused on this radical transparency, and everything that has made them excited or happy has been watching biotechnology people work together to try to better the planet. That's their motivations behind all of this. If you want to know more about them as people, you can listen to all of the different podcast episodes and hear the passion. You can understand how excited they are about being able to do this, not because they're excited about profitability or anything else like that. They're excited that they are like existing in a time where they're able to use their skill set to help people, which is what's been absolutely amazing about watching this play out from the distance. So there are, for 8 years leading up to the pandemic, they've been, Jake says right here, for 8 years leading up to the COVID-19 pandemic, my teams have been preparing for a crisis such as this one, developing therapeutic technologies well suited to fight pandemics. Beyond the industry, distributed biotechnology platforms were recognized for their ability to rapidly generate therapeutics against challenging pathogens by multiple agencies in the armed forces, resulting in cooperative research and development agreements with US AMRID, the Naval Medical Research Center, and the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research prior to the coronavirus outbreak. So this has been and then it kind of goes into Centivax and Distributed Bio and everything like that. And I can post all of them, but let's see here. Doesn't it make you nervous putting an antibody treatment on the market so fast without years of clinical trials and evidence? That's probably a question that's better suited for them to answer. Brandy, if you're still watching, I'm not going to address that on this live stream just because I'm not one of the scientists that's directly involved. So I wouldn't feel comfortable kind of explaining that. From my perspective, as a where I'm at in the spectrum, though, with my limited amount of knowledge, just as a nurse and what I've kind of seen, I think that all of the amazing research that they've put into place, I think that quote that Jake says right at the end of the article really kind of speaks to that, where it says for the 8 years leading up to this pandemic, they have been preparing for something like this. The technologies that they've implemented and the different platforms that they've put in place have been specifically tailored towards something like this, to put something out quicker than we were previously capable of. And so I definitely understand the concern about, putting the onto the market without years of clinical trials and evidence. But, 100 years ago, it took a lot longer to develop technologies than it does now with our access to AI and all the other technology that we have. So that's the little bit that I'll put there. This is exciting for me. Just from my perspective as a nurse and having taken care of COVID patients in the hospital, my perspective as a marketer, and somebody that has been involved in the podcasting space, live streaming and other stuff like that, it makes me super excited because this is something that I love when companies start to disrupt markets, especially for the right reasons. And Centivax and Distributed Bio are disrupting things for the right reasons. They're disrupting things to help people and pushing the envelope with this type of research. So all of this has been absolutely phenomenal. And so, like I said, if you want to look at the article yourself, I encourage everybody, and this is always my caveat, everything that I say on here is correctable. I'm only one person. I only have access to the information that I have available to me, right? I am by no means a virologist, immunologist, immunoengineer, computational informaticist. I am none of the above, okay? I'm just some dude from Canton, Ohio that loves researching things, that loves the medical field, to the point where I went to school to be a nurse and spent 2 years working in the ICUs. But again, very limited amount of knowledge. I just absolutely thought that this article was something that needed to be talked about and needed to be put out, because I think that there's been so much doom and gloom lately. Constantly just like I see death toll numbers. I see people arguing about whether or not to wear a mask or not to wear a mask and all this other stuff. And I get that. You know, there's concerns from all different spectrums of life. One thing that I've said is that we're all in this same storm, but we're all in different boats. And I think that that's been a phenomenal way to kind of explain it, is that, you know, the world is all in the same storm right now, but every single person is experiencing this pandemic at a different level, right? We're all in different boats. And I don't know what my neighbor's boat is like. I don't know what information that boat has access to when it comes to steering to their coordinates. But I wholeheartedly believe in this type of information, especially when it's been independently verified by 3 separate labs. And those labs include USAMRIID, University of Texas Medical Branch, and Stanford. You know, if there were 3 sources that I were going to trust, it would be 3 independent labs on top of Centivax's lab confirming what they've already confirmed. So we'll keep you guys updated as this continues to move forward. It's been a privilege to be able to talk about this right now. If you guys have questions, what I would do is I don't hit me up with them, because like I said, I'm just kind of the just somebody that saw this and thought that it needed talked about. And by no means am I the expert. I would go to Centivax's website. Let's see here. I'll just go ahead and put that up as a banner right here. So I would just go to www.centivax.com. Boop. So I would go right there. We'll leave that up there for a little bit. If you want to go there to check out some more information, you can definitely do that. I also, inside of the comments, for those of you that are just tuning in, we just went over an article released by a company called Centivax that says that they had 3 separate labs confirm the potency of their antibodies. So go check them out. If you want to learn more about the people behind the scenes, inside of the comments, I posted a link to our podcast called the Apex Podcast. You can go there and listen to interviews with everybody from Jake and Sarah Ives to Sharad Darakia to Aishani Athresh, who's actually 17 and works directly with Distributed Bio. She's absolutely one of the most intellectual people I've ever met in my life. And it blows me away, because thinking about where I was at 17 just definitely wasn't there. And we will be interviewing even like more of the Centivax staff moving forward to talk about some of the other programs they have involved. But definitely something you guys need to check out. I'm going to hop off so that I can do some more research into this, because I'm excited about it. If you have any questions, for sure, go to Centivax.com. You can follow Centivax also on Facebook. Just type in Centivax, and then they're on Twitter, LinkedIn. You can find them pretty much anywhere. Definitely go give them a follow for the most up-to-date stuff. And until next time, I'm Jan, and it has been a pleasure. Boop, and the broadcast. There we go.